Hello there everyone, and thanks for joining me at my tying bench once again. And this time around I'm going to tie you up a streamer pattern. And this guy is called the zonker strip bugger. It's just another variation of a woolly bugger fly. You just use a zonker rabbit strip for the body, and you stick with the marabou tail as in a regular woolly bugger. But this guy, it definitely has a lot of action in the water with that rabbit fur. It's got a lot of pulsating action. And it's a real fish catcher for sure. It's a really good fly for smallmouth bass. And tied in other colors, it's really good for trout as well. And I thought you might like to see this streamer tied up this time around, so I'll get him out of the vise here and a new hook in, and I'll get started for you. The hook I'm using is a size 4, 5 extra long, 9672 mustad streamer hook. And I have a large gold cone on the front here already. Just done that ahead of time here. That locked down in the vise. And for weight, I'm using some 0.30 lead wire for weight. So I want to wind on about 10 to 12 wraps of that here. So we'll get that on the shank. Okay, there's 12 wraps, so I'll just wiggle that end off. Bring this up and around and snap that end off. Now, we're going to push that up into the cone, but before I do that, I'm going to put a little dab of Zappa Gap there in between before I push it up in, so that'll help lock that all in place really well. Okay, and I'll shove that up into the cone head here. Get that situated. There we go. Okay, and for thread I'm using Danville's 210 denier flat wax nylon, and I have chartreuse color here. Okay, so we'll start our thread right behind the lead first here and build up a little small dam here, just to bring it up even with the back of that lead there. Then we'll jump on top, wrap forward towards the cone, then back again. Do that about 2 or 3 times just to secure everything down. Okay, then I'll wrap my thread back where we want to attach our tail. I'll go to about the hook point here. Snip off the excess thread. Alright, and I have a chartreuse marabou palm selected here. I like to use the real wispy ones there, for they have a lot more action. Okay, and we'll measure that out for about the length of the hook altogether, and I'll switch hands here. And we'll secure that down with a couple pinch wraps first, like so. Pull down nice and snug on it. Okay. There's our tail. Now I'm going to come forward and wrap to just behind our lead there. And secure that down with a wrap or two. Okay. And make a couple wraps there. Then I'm going to wrap back towards the tail, securing all that material down there nice and tight. And we'll snip off our excess marabou right behind the lead like so. Okay, and for flash, I got some UV chartreuse crystal flash here, and I like to put a fair amount in this guy. I fish this mostly for smallmouth bass, and in this color anyway, this particular color, and I'll put about 4 or 5 strands on each side of the tail. So we'll do that like we always do on a woolly bugger. We'll bring these ones here on this side, my side of the tail, and then I'll fold these ones around and bring them to the far side. Okay, just like so. There we go. Alright, and that gives us a fair amount of flash on this guy. Then I'll come in and trim those about the same length as the tail here. Alright, so there's that step. And next we're just going to move back and get ready to tie in our rabbit strip. And I have a chartreuse zonker strip here. Okay, and when you tie these in, I like to, if you strip a little bit of that fur off the end, makes it a much easier tie-in point, easier to tie in. And you want to tie it in so that your hair, you tie it in the direction that so it's flowing back towards the tail. So you don't want to tie it in the opposite direction or it won't wrap right. So you always want to make sure your fur is flowing back like so. So I'm going to tie this in right on top here, right by where I stripped the hair off the hide here. And we'll wrap that back and secure that down with lots of snug wraps there. Then we'll just try to create as smooth base as we can to wrap our body on. Transition to the lead there. Then we'll stop a ways behind the cone. Just like so. Okay. I'm just going to throw a 1/2 inch in here just for precautions here. Just in case our thread would happen to break or something. Alrighty, so now I'm going to begin to wrap my zonker strip. And you just want to make one wrap in front of the next. I don't overlap, just try to keep each wrap in front of the previous wrap and stroke it back as I go. Sometimes I'll wet my fingers a little. Helps keep everything going back. We'll just make the next wrap right in front. And we'll just carry on until we fill in the body. Just like so here. There we go. Okay. And it looks like we'll get 1 or 2 more wraps here, folks. The trickiest part is tying these rabbit strips off, but it's not too bad. And we'll get 1 more wrap right in under the cone. And now what I like to do is tie off underneath. So I'll come underneath, wiggle my thread, and go a couple wraps behind that strip. Then I'll push everything back with my fingers and wrap in front of it, like so. Then 1 or 2 more wraps behind. Then in front once again with 3 or 4 wraps. And that's got that locked in there nice and tight. Then I'll just turn my vise upside down here if you have a rotary, and then if not, just take it out and turn it over and snip out the hide, like so. Then we'll secure that with a few more wraps here, so it's in there nice and snug. Alright, there we go. So there's that. And I'm just going to give that a little brush in there, folks. Just in case I got a few trap fibers there. As you can see, everything flows back nice. Alright, so the last step, I like to take a little bit of hackle. I don't know if you could see it in the fly I showed you first, but I have a little bit of schlappen hackle on the front, just to add a little accent on the front there and fill it in a little more. So I have a chartreuse schlappen hackle here. I'm going to tie that in here. And make 3 or 4 wraps just to fill in that gap between the fur and the cone head. So we'll tie that in. I'll fold the stem back to lock it in place. Just like so here. And I'll come in, snip that off. Get a hold of that little stem there. If I can get a hold of him. Alrighty. There he is. Just come in and snip him out. There we go. Alright, so now I'll just grab my hackle pliers here. Actually, I'll just use my fingers for this. Spread those fibers out a little bit. Now we're just going to make 3 or 4 wraps in the front of that fur here. Trying not to trap too many of these hackle fibers down in the process. Because this schlappen tends to, stuff seems to trap by the thread a lot easier than your regular hackles. You just got to be careful. And just take your time. Spread those fibers out, 1 wrap in front of the next. And I want to come right in behind the cone with this. Just like so, and I'll come up around with 1 last wrap. Get a hold of the tip there. Maybe I should have used the hackle pliers because it just slipped on me, but I'll get a hold of that once again here. I want to grab onto that with my pliers, folks. Alright, and we'll come in behind the cone and tie that off. Couple wraps behind it, couple right in behind it, cinch it in underneath that cone nice and tight. Release my pliers, and I'll come in and snip off the hackle tip here. I know it looks sort of a mess right now, but we'll get her here once I make sure there's no hackle fibers trapped in there. Give it a little brush with some Velcro. Alrighty, so now I'm going to slick everything back here. Alright, now I'm going to build a little thread head behind the cone. Okay, and there we have it. That's another zonker strip bugger, chartreuse. So then the simple step next, I'm just going to take a little bit of Zap-A-Gap here, put on the thread wraps, or excuse me, on the thread rather. Make a couple wraps right in behind there. Let that sink in. Then we'll do a couple whip finishes on him and he's a done deal. So do a couple 3 or 4 turn whip finishes here. There's one. Cinch it down. We'll do another one here. Just like so. Okay. Cinch that down. Pull down nice and tight. Snip off our excess thread here. And there we have it. I'm just going to give that a little combing here. Just comb it out first and then comb it back. Make sure there's no trapped fibers. And then I'll comb it back. That usually gets any fibers that are trapped in out for you if you do it that way. And as you can see, that has wicked action in the water, as we know how much action rabbit fur has. And there we go, folks, a size 4 chartreuse rabbit strips bugger. Alright, I just thought I'd change it up this time, tie you up something a little different that you may have not have seen before. I'll see if I can get a little close up without my focus screwing up on you. And there we have it. It's quite a bulky streamer, but once that gets wet it slicks down and there's still lots of hooking power there, and the hook gaps, you got all your hook gap there. And it has plenty of action in the water. So if you have the materials, definitely tie some of these guys up if you do any bass fishing. And also I tie them in blacks and browns and that, and they're good for trout as well. So I appreciate y'all watching, and if you haven't subscribed to my new channel yet, please subscribe, and appreciate that a great deal, and throw in a like too. And if you have any comments, put them down below, because I read every comment, each and every one, and I'll reply to your comments every time. And I want to thank you all for watching again. And until next time, folks, happy tying out there. I'll see you all again soon, and so long for now, folks.